So, yeah, evening, Shogi. It's good to see you. I was thinking about you as I was getting the stream set up because you mentioned that you regretted missing a look at an obscure movie, and I don't believe I had one last stream, but I got a treat for you, my friend. You are going to enjoy this. But first, books I've been reading. I finished Song of Achilles. Yep. There we go. Very good. And I think that it's really interesting. The part of this story where it starts to overlap and catch up with the Iliad, a lot of it is about the development of Achilles and Patroclus's relationship prior to the war in Troy. And it's really interesting. Maybe it's because I'm familiar with the Iliad and I know how all that goes. But as soon as they hit the shores of Troy, the book just sped up. I think I read everything that took place at Troy. I think I read it maybe like 5 times the speed as everything else. It just flew by, and it is a very it's a great revisiting of that story. It's really cool to see it from Patroclus's point of view, somebody who's been humanized, and somebody who can, to some extent, humanize the inhumanly angry Achilles through love. And so yeah, it's very clever. It's also really interesting to see which aspects of the Achilles legend Madeline Miller chooses to incorporate in her story, because there are of course many different versions of Achilles' tale. The most famous one, of course, being the Achilles heel, which she actually chooses not to integrate, and I think that's a fine thing to do for this story. Yeah, I think somebody described this to me as Homer fan fiction, and I have feelings about that from a number of points of view. One, I mean, these are sort of culturally inherited stories that writers and poets and playwrights from that era used as a motif, and then they use that to build their themes. And that is just how these stories are used, right? So it's similar in a way that Shakespeare took a lot of pre-existing stories and used those to explore his themes. Madeline Miller is using the motif of Achilles and Patroclus and the war in Troy to explore hers. And it's really silly to me to see that sort of thing described as fan fiction, because it seems to misunderstand fan fiction and also misunderstand how stories, especially around these shared tales, get told. Um, and yeah, so it's interesting. It's a great book. I recommend it, and so apparently do many. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's very good. The next one I picked up. This was assigned to me in school back in 2003. I believe I checked. That's when I usually write the years that I buy books. And it's titled Donald Duck. And it's about the Chinese and Chinese American community in San Francisco, I believe. Yeah, it's a very quick read. It's very accessibly written. I believe it was assigned to me alongside Huckleberry Finn for reasons I cannot remember, and hope to recover as I read through it. Clearly, I didn't read everything I was supposed to in the class, as happens, But yeah, this is good. It's by Frank Chin. But beyond that, so before we hop into the stream, let's see if I can time box this to 10 minutes. Let's see if that can happen. I want to talk to you about one of El Santo's final movies, Mystery of the Bermudas, Misterio and Las Bermudas. I think that's how you say that. And this is a doozy, let me tell you. So, yeah, evening, Dan. It's good to see you. Yeah, the Song of Achilles is good. It's worth reading, especially if you're familiar with the Iliad. I have had the good fortune to have reread the Iliad within the past 2 or 3 years, so it's fairly fresh in my brain. It helps that I already knew what it contained, and then refamiliarizing myself with that. I read parts of it, went through an audiobook of the rest of it, And it's interesting. The audiobook, doing it by audiobook has a sort of authenticity to it because these songs were not always read. This was a poem, right? A poem to be sung, and not necessarily something to be encountered as a book. So that has its own value there. But something that yeah. So Misterio and Las Bermudas. This is wonderful. So this is one of El Santo's final films. It is a collaborative film starring the trio, the legendary trio of El Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Mascaras. And let's just jump into what this is. Sorry, let me catch up here. Oh, wow. I mean, Unicode is fascinating, right? It's the same. It's interesting. These Homer and the Homeric stories and Unicode are both at the heart of so much of what we do on a daily basis, even if people, especially if people aren't aware of it. I don't think the parallels are misguided. All right, Dan. I'm recording this locally, so if your internet hiccups or if Twitch is hiccuping, then I'll upload the VOD for a cleaner watch. So yeah, so this takes place, of course, in the Bermuda Triangle. We all know it's a weird place where things happen, and it sort of opens with the emergence of this device, which I maybe kind of a spotlight. Usually I'm kind of decent at sort of picking out what parts were used for these sorts of props, but I actually can't identify what these things are because I assume that whatever object or objects this was made from were polished chrome to begin with. But so yeah, so the idea is that this thing emerges from the water. This causes disturbance in nature. The birds get freaked out. So do the rays. The storms get all upheavally, the lightning strikes, and then we see a plane. This plane isn't really followed up on, so I am assuming that it means that the plane disappears, as things do over Bermuda. Unicode seems like the kind of thing that you could make a compelling drama about. I mean, there are so many players involved with it and so much history that I think you could do something neat with it. And so then after that, we sort of piece out from the Bermuda bit, from the Bermuda Triangle bit, and go to a couple of fishermen. So the narrative structure of this movie is kind of a bookend and kind of lucid associative, because the Bermuda happening, the sort of spiriting away of the airplane, it's unclear. The same sorts of things happen in the past, but maybe that's in the present or the future. Anyway, so we cut to the first bookend, which is these fishermen, and they are going fishing, and one of them catches something particularly strange, which is El Santo's mask, which then prompts the elder fisherman to go into a story. So the entire movie is flashback. And the flashback immediately starts with a three-man tag team match with El Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Mascaras on the same team, which is just fantastic. It's not here just for show. They go to falls. You get to see both rounds, and you even get to see, honestly. So having watched several of these, and I love Blue Demon's flying cross chop. It is one of my favorite moves of his, and this has maybe one of the best. This is the first Santo movie that maybe in color that I've analyzed. There were several others prior to this. This has one of the best sort of like visuals of this as a linear thing. So here he's bouncing off the ropes, running, jumping, clobber, boom! It's so good. It's good in freeze frame, and it's even better in action. So I recommend it. Actually, so this movie is on YouTube. I will give you a link to it once we're done with this. Klingon to the Unicode standard. I mean, I believe it. I mean, I was around for the Usenet. I know how deep nerds will go in arguing. And guilty as charged on that. Back in the day. But so yeah, this is something that it's just I love seeing these three just hang out. It's one of my favorite things in these movies is watching these three guys just hang out in mask and in dad gear, and it's just it warms my heart. And so here they are, they're hanging out, and they walk back in and have a stern look at the radio, where they get a distress call. They hear somebody calling a distress signal. I don't know how many of these were made in color, actually. I am, as you can tell, I'm on my way to finding out. So they naturally go out to answer the distress call, and it turns out this guy has been affected by the Bermuda Triangle sort of monkey business going on out there, and is in danger because now there's a shark, which, in addition to being a shark, which in a movie means a threat, it's also been riled up by the Bermuda Triangle sciencey thing. So then it cuts from the shark to this guy swimming in the water with a blood trail, and you're kind of like, I think the idea is like, oh no, is this like in Jaws where he like tugs at the leg and the leg is gone, and is he about to go down? But no, from the blood emerges Blue Demon. And then Mil Mascaras and Santo to rescue him. So the three luchadors answered the distress call, drove out to the coordinates, dove into the water, and killed a shark with wrestling. And I'm deeply frustrated that we didn't get to see it. And I don't want to see a shark die. But in one of these movies, we did get to see El Santo ground a plane with a submission hold. And that it's just the fact that you can use wrestling to solve this many problems is just it's an aspect of this universe that I love. Evening Taco, it's great to see you. Oh yeah, no, the colors in these movies are just popping vibrant. I love them. I do not see the only other place that I see this many sort of like colors in one place in one scene are honestly a lot of Japanese video games, which are sort of they have a particular colorful the colorfulness of Japanese video games feels like a very characteristic thing, and these movies have their own version of that. Oh yeah, no, the mask also has the added benefit of the characters never truly age. You know, you can see how when you have supporting actors in these movies appear over and over again over the course of a decade, you get to see them age, you know, their physiques change, the lines in the face and everything. But the characters, these guys stay the same, in large part because physically they're always active, that's their work, so they stay roughly in the same shape, but also their faces never age because it's always the mask. I mean, honestly, well, actually, funny you should ask that question because because the ending of this, who buddy? So yeah, so this is a great sequence. So there are two plots happening in this movie, and they kind of intersect at one point. And I don't have a copy of this that's subtitled. So I'm going off the off the Spanish that I know, and I can tell a little bit of what's happening. There is the daughter of an Iranian ambassador who is going to be coming to this place, and there is a group of criminals who want to assassinate her. So that's one plot. Then there's not Atlantis. Then there's the Bermuda science-y stuff, which seems to be its own contained story. And these two things overlap at a certain point, but it's really unclear to me how. However, that doesn't stop. Well, one thing that they have in common is luchadors. Never seen so many masks near a giant body of water. That's a statement I've literally never heard anybody say or write. Good job. But yeah, so yeah, no, it's great. It gives it a timeless quality, and actually, I think that this, in addition to the talent and performance skill of the wrestlers themselves, I think that sort of timeless quality in these performances actually helps to make these characters legendary, to give that sort of legendary, larger than life quality to the luchadors. But this is one instance. So this is a great scene. This is great. So Mil Mascaras walking down the docks, kind of looking at the fish, carrying his 2 bags of groceries. It's unclear where he's coming from or where he's going, because presumably a dock, unless this is like a boardwalk, which it could be. Presumably a dock ends at water, so it's unclear which. I mean, it must be a boardwalk in that case. So he's walking along carrying his groceries, and he's accosted by three guys who are, this is on Team Criminal. So he just throws his groceries at one of them. Throws his groceries in his face. And then he goes through he basically uses his signature Mil Mascara's moves to throw these guys in the water. He's got his great throws. He's got a good high kick. He uses the momentum of one enemy who's got him in a pinhold to throw another one over the water. It's great. And these are the criminals in their home base. Oh my, that sounds uniquely unpleasant. Very, very unpleasant. I'm glad I played Spider-Man under better circumstances. Okay, so this guy here, the bald fellow. Now this guy shows up in a lot of these movies as a sort of arch villain. Not the character. He doesn't play the same character, but the same actor does. And this is actually a neat way in which a lot of these movies overlap with many of the Japanese noir movies, where you do have the same actors playing the same character types over and over again. And so kind of the strategy that the criminals seem to have is there are these three women who I think are supposed to be sort of femme fatale characters, and they're like, okay, go like date the luchadors and get information from them on the location of the Iranian princess. This leads to, so all of this that has come before leads to one of the strangest 3 minutes in a movie I think I've ever seen. And excluding something that is deliberately surrealistic like David Lynch. So, I'm going to, you need to see this for yourself, but I'll walk you through the slides. It starts with about 15 seconds of silent weightlifting. There is no soundtrack. You hear the machines clatter and clink as Blue Demon, Santo, and Mil Mascaras are working out. Then it cuts to their girlfriends waiting on them, which it becomes apparent is in a high school gymnasium. So the luchadors have gone to a high school's gym to work out and asked their girlfriends to wait for them in the gym. They are then attacked by the criminals, who the women are working for, so it's unclear why now they're attacking them in person. But anyway, so this fist fight breaks out in this high school gym, and the luchadors, of course, take the day. You sock it to them, LFH score. The sort of like pep rally posters are still up. So after this happens, then these guys appear out of nowhere. Like they beam in, like using Gen 1 Star Trek beam in technology. So they're in these silver suits and they beam in, and they kidnap one of the women, and it's, of course, damsel in distress. So, but they don't beam out. They get in a car. And they drive away, and they drive to the beach, and then they get in a boat and go. And this whole thing raises so many questions that, I mean, maybe it's the fact that I don't 100% understand the dialogue, but even in movies of these where I have understood the dialogue, this doesn't necessarily need to have a lot of connecting threads. Yes, no, it's like Star Trek, right? Star Trek. So let's go back. So here we are, fist fight, cut to the door, beam in, Spock and Kirk, they beam in, and then they grab, they kidnap one of the women, and then they get into a car, and the luchadors are, of course, chasing them this whole time. The criminals are no longer of interest. And then they take her in a boat, and this storyline is then wrapped up where she's actually repatriated into this Atlantan science civilization, which takes place on someone's lawn in a weird brutalist architecture apartment complex. And so, because this is that other plot. This is the little thing coming up out of the water and ruining the nature. These are the people doing that, and they're not connected to the criminals. And so her storyline starts with the criminals and ends here, and that's just it. So, and yeah, that's her dad. It's like the dad was like, All right, you've run into a bad crowd. Time to come home. Uh, and so then we finally get to the daughter of the Iranian ambassador, which is very so. It you see her coming off of an airplane. You see her befriending the luchadors. You see her giving a karate demonstration. She then fends off an attack from the criminals, and then that thread wraps up. And the luchadors have done their work. You know, they fended off a bunch of mooks while she was fighting the big boss. And then everybody's happy. They get on a boat and they're going out to sea. I don't know where. And this is where, again, Dan, I believe it was Dan. Yes, what hasn't been killed with wrestling in these films. Now, this isn't with wrestling, but in a sense it might be. Let's see, there we go. So they wave goodbye, right? Little thing pops out of the ocean. Beep. Stormy seas. Then we cut to the boat and no one's on it. Were they spirited away? Were they killed? Nobody knows. It's what happens in the Bermuda Triangle. But this disappearance is what leads, logically, next to the first event in the movie, which is finding the El Santo mask. So presumably, Santo is either underwater and unmasked, which is a particular kind of destruction, since that's his identity, or he died, and his mask is all that's left of him. Either way, you think, like, oh, wow, that's kind of a dark ending. But, oh, no. Oh, no, it didn't include the slides! Oh. Okay, well, then I'll just have to narrate for you what happened. So then it cuts back to the fisherman. Sitting on the dock, and they the guy telling the story basically says, yeah, and they were never heard from again. This is definitely a sign of the apocalypse. The end times are upon us. Cut to an atomic bomb exploding and a mushroom cloud on the horizon. End. And it's like, I did not expect a luchador film to end on a tone of like atomic nihilism, where our heroes are killed, by evil scientists, and their disappearance has now heralded in the apocalypse, which the movie reinforces by showing the first signs of nuclear war. And it's astounding. It is deeply unexpected. I will tell you that. And what I will do for you, because I believe Misterio en las Bermudas, película completa, I will link you to the entire movie right there. Do yourself a favor, watch it. It's a great hour and 15 minutes. I hope that El Santo martial arts will survive the end times. It is entirely possible that maybe he has traded in another mask, right? Maybe he's upgraded, like Masked Smith and Killer 7, where he just kind of successively gets stronger as he unlocks new masks. But one can only hope. But yeah, Mystery of the Bermudas. It went a good 10 minutes over my projected 10-minute mark, but damn it, this is important. Okay, so that brings us to Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil math. Let's, I hope he will. I think we need him now.